When I was a sophomore in high school, my family and I, we went on a trip. We went on a vacation, and we were in an airplane, and with 2 brothers and 5 sisters, a total of 10 of us. The plane tickets got a little messed up, and so 9 of my family members got to sit together in one part of the plane, and then there was one ticket that was messed up, and I was voluntold to go to the back of the plane and sit by myself. And as a high school student, most high school students, we basically just vegged out. I was kind of like mad at the world. This is not just, And so I took up the cause, and I was putting on my Walkman. It was a Sony Walkman. It was this yellow thing with a little CD player in it. And I was going to veg out to Guns N' Roses, just to rebel against that awful thing that I was being treated so unfairly. And so I was about to settle in, and, the planes take it off, and, I had this sweatshirt on from my high school, and this guy was sitting next to me. He was dressed in basically like a, khaki pants, a golf shirt. And he started to look at me, and he asked me, "Are you Catholic?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, it's a Central Catholic, obviously. That's who I am. Yeah, I am." And he then started to debate with me on every single issue, from abortion to the papacy, to the Blessed Virgin, to the presence of Jesus in the Eucharist, and on and on and on. He kept provoking all these conversations to the point when we were about to land, he looked at me and he says, "You know what? I am a Catholic priest. I'm the chaplain at Villanova." And he goes, "I was playing the devil's advocate, but you, young man," and I remember he was sitting right next to me. It was really awkward because it wasn't like I was far away from him. He was like literally right next to me. And he goes, "You will be a priest someday." And I said, "Father, I would prefer to jump out of an airplane before I do that." And so it is. There are so many signs that we all get every day. So many ways in which encounters with people, circumstances that happen, things that just kind of come into our hearts that God wants to lead us with. And today, what a special day it is to be able to think about the fact that each one of us can play a role in somebody's life to become a priest or a religious. But you know what the problem is? Most of us have forgotten that, or we don't realize that you actually play a part in the salvation of souls by praying for young people to hear the voice of God in their life, by provoking in young people, by looking at them and say, "Have you ever thought about being a priest or religious before?" You see, Jesus Christ in the scriptures is constantly calling people to a greater sign of generosity, some to the married life, some to the single life, some to be his full-time assistants as priests and religious. And so today we have this opportunity to start a new wave of prayer, a new way of consciousness in our parish, to really kind of step it up the way hopefully the Penguins will today. At any rate, obviously coming from the small family that I'm from with, just 2 little brothers and 5 sisters, and on my dad's side, 13 kids, 84 grandchildren, and just yesterday, 120 great-grandchildren. This kind of small family of about 275, that's only on my dad's side. Then there's my mom's side. It's awesome, this family that I have. But my dear grandfather, on my dad's side, he passed away last year, but I'll always remember when he would go through the different moments in our lives, he talked about when he would hold his new child in his hand, and he did that 13 times, how he would pray that child might have a vocation to the priesthood or to the religious life. And now you might think God was deaf or dumb, because 13 of them all had kids and they all got married. But my grandfather persisted, and he didn't understand the plan of God at first. And then all of a sudden, what happens? Yours truly comes. Basically, I'm the favorite. That's the way it goes. If you took a poll, my grandparents would say that, yeah, I'm the most loved. That's just the way it is. I'm the priest of the family. What are you going to do? Named after my grandfather, the oldest son of the oldest son. And if you went around to my grandparents and said, "Okay, which one of these kids," and all that stuff, it would be obvious that I'm the most loved, and the most humble. But also, if you actually went around my family and asked, "Who do my grandparents love the most?" My grandmother's 93rd birthday was just the other day. Everyone in our family would point to themselves because of their ability to just simply pour out their love to us. And now that's a nice pious exaggeration from a grandson or from a family member. But how true is that for God, for the heart of the Good Shepherd, Jesus Christ? How true is it that each one of us is actually loved the most by the Good Shepherd? And I love that little passage he inserts in there. They know my voice, and they know me. There's this intimacy. But the challenge is that we need human instruments to be kind of that way in which the conduit for Christ sometimes, like a priest who celebrates a mass, a nun who lives out her beautiful life. But the challenge today is that so many of us don't feel like we're the most loved by God because we need more human instruments that can be that conduit for Christ. And I think about my grandfather's prayers and how they came true. And I think about the prayers of each of you if we start to pray even more, specifically for young people to respond to the call of Jesus Christ and to respond to that beautiful vocation. And so, when you look at this Mass kit issued in the 1940s to Father Carey, in this Mass kit, there's this beautiful kind of history of who Father Carey was and this traveling chalice, and how grateful we all are for people who will be able to. All of you are invited to adopt the chalice for a week or two and pray for vocations, to maybe go through some of the beautiful prayers that are in here and see some of the different things about the history of this beautiful chalice and some of the different items in here. And so it's just an encouragement. Father Carey served in our parish from 1963 to 1988. Raise your hand if you knew Father Carey. See the legacy of him, you birds, And so he understood the sacrificial nature of priesthood. And boy, I've been telling this story over the last few days. People are coming up with more Father Carey stories. It's awesome to hear the Father Carey stories. But one thing is true, is that as an Army chaplain, he served in the 11th Airborne Division. He would have jumped out of an airplane with this and actually gone skydiving into enemy territory. Why? To be able to bring the sacramental love of Jesus Christ to the heart of those soldiers that were willing to risk their life for our country. And so he served for over for 12 years in different parts of the world during these wars, and as a brave chaplain was then called back to Pittsburgh and served in our parish for a number of years. And lots of beautiful stories about him. My favorite is that when he was talking about dying and all that stuff, he wanted to meet the baby Jesus, not the adult Jesus. And I just found out why. After the last Mass, he would look up at the crucifix and he goes, "Do you want to be judged by him? I prefer to be judged by the baby." And so there's those mystical experiences of Father Carey that we get to carry on today. And then another beautiful item in this Mass kit is there was a tradition in our church that every time you celebrated Mass, it always should be over a relic, some special connection to a saint or some holy moment or place. And so this special linen, which unfolds inside of it, is called an antemensum. And the antemensum goes above what this is called the altar cloth, but below the corporal. And in it is embedded as a special relic, written in this ancient Slavic language, which was developed by St. Cyril and Methodius, who invented a language to simply be able to preach the gospel to the Croatians and to that area of the world. And so this is a very special linen that that Father Carey would have used. In fact, it still has the stains of war on it. As he would celebrate the sacrifice of the Mass, he knew that these soldiers, perhaps this was the last thing that they would do. And so it's a beautiful relic for our parish. And if you take the chalice and in this Mass kit for a week, you can look at it and see the beautiful way in which this linen was prepared and has served as a tremendous memory to that. And at the offertory today, you'll see the chalice, Father Carey's chalice, the chalice that he would have used for the Mass. It'll be brought up and placed up here. And at the 11:30 Mass, we're going to send it out for the first time with a family from the parish. So think about that. You'll see some information in the bulletin about that too. Now, the thing about praying for vocations, it sounds really nice, right? Well, Father Jay's already got a vocation, so what are you going to pray for vocation? What does that actually mean? Jimmy. So there's this, sometimes we need to land our ideas. It sounds nice to pray for vocations, and I'm sure most of you do that, right, in general. But now, how about doing it specifically? And so this is Jimmy Massengill. Jimmy, where do you live?
I live on West Manila Avenue in Green Tree, so right
Okay,
now.
so you don't live like on the moon, or you're not like from Mars. You actually live around here. And what grade are you in?
I'm in my junior year of high school.
Okay, so you're junior in high school. And have you ever thought about being a priest?
Yes, that is what I believe God is calling me to. Through a lot of prayer, I've come to the conclusion that that's definitely what He's called me to, and especially in high school.
What were some of the signs that you saw, or some family members that helped you understand the vocation to the priesthood?
To be honest, a lot of people from my parish at St. Margaret's would come up and be like, maybe you should be a priest, and my parents, and just to let you know that even some small act of being like one of the parishioners coming up to a servant being like, maybe you should be a priest would make a huge difference in their lives.
And have you ever had anybody in your family ever like pray for you or anything like this?
Yes, just like Father Jay said, his grandfather would pray for a priest in the family. On my dad's side, his grandmother would pray, please let there be a priest in our family, and hopefully that will come true, that prayer.
So finally, when we're praying for vocations, you know, we have these beautiful prayers that we have, and now you'll see in the back of our red hymnals, there's actually a beautiful prayer that we're going to pray during the prayers of the faithful. When we're praying for men like you, or for young ladies who are thinking of the priesthood or of the nunnery, what would you suggest? What should our prayer be? How should we pray for you? What should we be thinking in our prayer for you?
Especially on this Good Shepherd Sunday, please pray that the priests and everybody who's discerning the priesthood and is meant to be a priest or a religious will have the heart of Jesus, because we need a good shepherd's heart to be able to lead a flock. So please pray, especially that for me and for all of the men who are called to the priesthood.
Yeah, we hear Jeremiah say, I will appoint for you shepherds after my own heart. One of the things that was hardest for me in terms of discerning and deciding and then taking the step towards the vocation was, how in the world could God place me in such an amazing family, but at the same time call me not to be part of a family in terms of being a father of a family or a husband? It was a really moment in my life where I was like, how does that work? Why would God, who loves me so much, call me to do that? And then it dawned on me, as you can hear it today in the gospel, what is a good shepherd's heart but one who's willing to sacrifice his life for the good of his sheep, not a mercenary who simply paid, which will run away. And so one of the great gifts of priesthood is the grace of that sacrificial nature of Jesus Christ being placed in the heart of that person who gives their lives for the good of salvation of souls. There's no doubt that the profession of being a lawyer, a doctor, a teacher, and all the wonderful things that many of you are engaged in every day is so helpful for the good, the common good of our society. But the common good and the decisive nature of priesthood is to take on the sacrificial nature of Jesus on Calvary and offer up that sacrifice of Christ to God the Father for the salvation of souls. That is why this is so vital. It's not just about church changes and a new priest that'll come here in a couple months. It's not about who our bishop is and what the Pope is saying. All those things are wonderful. What it's really about, and this is what my grandfather constantly would tell us at our get-togethers, the goal in life is to get to heaven. And everything we do, every decision we make, should be decided under that light. And who can be that light, that kind of guiding instrument for the salvation of souls? But most especially priests. Why is it that we have a vocational crisis today? Because most of us don't think about sacrificing our lives for the salvation of souls. And that's the challenge that the young people that we need to be talking to people about, is are we willing to put on that heart of Christ and sacrifice ourselves for the salvation of souls? And yes, you know, that guy, that priest, that chaplain from Villanova who pointed to me, I told him I'd jump out of an airplane before I would become a priest. 2 weeks before I joined the seminary, I went skydiving. And part of the experience of skydiving is you're at 12,000 feet. And you have two options. One is to jump out with the parachute open. I didn't want to do that because I wanted free fall. Or at 12,000 feet where you're dropping. But there's a person on your back. It's a tandem dive type experience. And there you are, you're rocking back and forth. And on the count of three, you got to jump out. But the kicker is, you can't just jump out feet first. You know, like if you're jumping off like a little, like into the pool. You have to do a belly flopper. At 12,000 feet, the plane's going over 200 miles an hour. So you have to get parallel to the ground. You can't just jump out. You've got to jump out. You know what I mean? And the reason why is because the cord that you pull for the parachute will get tucked around your neck, and you'll probably hang yourself before you get a chance to actually pull the cord, which won't be very good because you'll turn into a pancake after that. So the thing is the only thing we were told to do is make sure when you jump, you go all in. You've got to get to that belly flopper position instantly. And I think as I was doing that, I remember going 1, 2, and I'm thinking, geez, I really don't think I should be doing this. And then jumped out. And what happens when you jump out at 12,000 feet with nothing holding you down? Everything that was ever inside of you comes out. You lose your eyeballs, your nose, your ears fall off. Yeah, everything just kind of leaves you, and you just become not like a bony guy, and you're just like this. And it's awesome because for a minute and a half, you have total free fall. If you ever driven in a car and you kind of go up on a little hill and then you feel that little jump, it's not like that. It's like a lot worse than that. And it's a minute and a half of that. And so as you're doing that, it's just incredible, the thrill and just jumping like that. And you're going down, and then all of a sudden, and you have this harness that comes around you. And at about 6,000 feet, after a minute and a half of that, you have to pull the cord. And when I pulled that cord, I had the biggest wedgie of my life. Yeah. And I started to sing 5 octaves higher. And as you go down more and more, and you start driving around on this little thing, and then, boom, you land. And to me, the Catechism defines faith as a free response to Christ's initiative. When I realized that Christ took the initiative to come into my life, the way he did through the instrument of St. John Paul II, to reach out and touch me and say, will you be my priest? How could I say no to Jesus Christ? More importantly, why would I not go all in for Jesus Christ? That is how I think each one of us can contribute to our parish, to our community, to our family, by praying for young people to be open to that sacrificial, risky nature of giving our lives to Jesus Christ for the salvation of souls. I hope that you'll consider maybe adopting the Carey Cup, which is what we're talking about during this Stanley Cup playoffs. It's good to think about the Carey Cup and be able to adopt that and pray for vocations to the priesthood. Please stand. Thanks, Jim.